My name is Carnila Rivers. I am 27 years old, and one quiet Sunday evening I learned what family really meant, at least to them. The dining room was glowing with candlelight. The table was long enough for 12, though I was the 13th, always the extra one. Mom passed mashed potatoes to my brother, Evan, laughing at his jokes like he was the sun itself. His wife, Melissa, poured wine, smirking at me every time I reached for something. When I smiled and said, "Can't wait for the family reunion," it was meant as small talk, a little spark of belonging. But Evan didn't miss his chance. He leaned back, grinning. "You're not invited, it's for real family." Everyone laughed. Even my father. The sound was sharp, like breaking glass in my chest. I tried to laugh with them, but my voice broke halfway. Mom said, "Don't take it seriously, honey, you know how your brother jokes." Yet her eyes never met mine. I stayed silent, finished my water, and watched the chandelier sway above their smiles. Every fork clink was a reminder that I was just background noise in my own family story. When the waiter arrived with dessert, I pushed my plate away. I stood up slowly, smoothed my dress, and said quietly, "Send the bill to the ones who ate." Evan chuckled. "There she goes again, dramatic as always." But for the first time I didn't argue. I just smiled, walked out into the cold night, and promised myself this humiliation wouldn't be free. Break time equals 2/4. If you're watching this, drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever been laughed at by your own blood? Hit like and subscribe, because this story is about what happens after the laughter fades. That night, as I drove home under the pale moonlight, I didn't cry. I just opened my banking app, stared at the joint family account my father controlled, and saved a screenshot. Because something inside me whispered, "This time silence will speak." I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Evan's voice. "It's for real family." The laughter echoed in my chest like thunder trapped in glass. I sat at my desk, staring at the faint light of my phone. For years I had handled my parents' online payments, bills, insurance, little digital details they never bothered to learn. My father trusted me completely with his accounts. Or so he thought. That night I logged in. And when I saw the balance, $18,600, my hands trembled. It wasn't greed. It was justice. It was the proof that they had always relied on me silently, even while mocking me publicly. I opened the joint family fund my father had created years ago, the same one I managed and monitored. It wasn't my money, but it was my responsibility. So I took a screenshot of the balance. Then another, of the digital authority linked to my name. The caption I drafted on a blank note simply read, "Family-only policy, access required. Break time equals 2/4. The irony wasn't lost on me. They had called me not family at dinner. Yet the system still needed my approval for every withdrawal. I didn't act out of anger that night. Just quiet calculation. Because pain, when it sits long enough, becomes precision. The next morning my mother called, her voice light and casual. "Camila, about last night, you know your brother jokes. You should lighten up." I replied softly, "I already did, Mom," and ended the call. That day I went to work early, dressed and calm. My colleagues thought I was fine. No one knew that under my blazer a storm was forming, the kind that doesn't destroy everything. It just rearranges it. 2 days passed quietly. Then early Thursday morning, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the family bank account. Withdrawal attempt, $2,400, declined. Break time equals 2/4. I smiled for the first time that week. And sent one simple message to my father's number. Payment denied. Must be that family-only policy. That afternoon I muted every family group chat. Because from that moment, I was done being their easy target. But little did I know, they weren't done with me. The next morning the air felt heavier than usual. I woke up to 12 missed calls, 10 from Mom, 2 from Dad. And one voice message from Melissa. Her voice dripped with sarcasm. "So, little Miss Banker decided to play God now? Cute. You always needed attention." I didn't reply. Silence was safer, and sharper. When Mom finally reached me, her tone was half sweet, half desperate. "Camila, your father tried to make a payment for the reunion venue. It got declined. Did something happen with the account?" I took a slow sip of my coffee before answering. "Nothing happened, Mom. The system just follows rules. Family-only access, remember." There was a pause, the kind that burns. "Camila, Don't make this harder than it is, she whispered. You know your father doesn't mean the things he says. I smiled faintly, though she couldn't see it. Then maybe he should stop saying them. Break time equals 2 For 27 years I had been the one who fixed everything. Passwords, bills, broken plans, even broken feelings. They used me like a reset button and I always let them. Because I believed that's what love looked like. But love doesn't humiliate you at dinner tables. Love doesn't make you invisible when others are watching. Love doesn't laugh when you ache. Later that afternoon I walked through the city streets, watching families hold hands, laughing over coffee. I wondered if anyone else in the world had ever felt adopted by their own blood. My coworker Sienna noticed my silence. Rough week, she asked. I nodded, forcing a smile. Just family things. She chuckled softly. Those are always the worst. That night Dad finally texted me himself. Camila, this is childish. You've embarrassed me. I typed back. No, Dad. I just stopped volunteering for it. Then I switched my phone to airplane mode. For the first time in years I slept through the night. Break time equals 2 But peace never lasts long in my family. Because by the next sunrise, there was a car parked outside my apartment, and someone waiting inside it. The morning sun slipped through the blinds, painting thin lines of gold across my living room. When I looked outside, a silver SUV was idling near the curb, engine running, headlights faint in the daylight. At first I thought it was coincidence, but then I saw him. My father. Still in his work clothes, pressed white shirt, tie crooked, expression unreadable. He wasn't the type to show up unannounced. He believed in hierarchy and control. So the fact that he was here meant he'd lost both. I opened the door before he could knock. Morning, Dad. He didn't smile. Camila, get in the car. We need to talk. I crossed my arms. We can talk here. He looked around, lowering his voice. Don't be dramatic. I just want to understand why you'd embarrass this family. Embarrass. That word again. It was always my label, never theirs. I leaned against the doorway. You mean why the payment didn't go through? His jaw tightened. That account is for the family. I met his gaze. Exactly. Break time equals 2 For a moment the silence stretched between us. A lifetime of unspoken things balancing on the edge of my calm. You're proving them right, you know, he said softly. They say you're too emotional. Too difficult. I felt the sting, but I didn't flinch. Maybe I just stopped mistaking silence for respect. He looked at me, really looked, as if seeing someone new behind the familiar face. Then his tone softened. You'll regret this, Camila. Family isn't something you replace. I smiled faintly. Neither is self-worth. He stood there a while longer, his authority fading with every heartbeat. Then he muttered, "We'll talk later," and walked away. I closed the door, locked it, and exhaled. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from release. That night I received an email from the bank. Account owner attempted multiple password resets. They were trying to get in. Trying to regain control. And that's when I realized, this wasn't about money anymore. It was about power. Break time equals 2 So I opened a new file on my laptop. Title, Family Reunion Plan. Because if they wanted a reunion, they were about to get 1.4 years. I had been the quiet one. The peacemaker, the one who fixed chaos others caused. But that night, sitting at my desk with the faint hum of my laptop, I decided to fix something else. The truth. I named the document Family Reunion Plan. It wasn't a joke. It was structure. Boundaries disguised as calm sentences. Step 1. Audit every shared account. Step 2. Separate my finances from theirs completely. Step 3. Make them remember who kept everything running. I started pulling records. Electric bills, insurance renewals, subscriptions, all linked to my credentials. For every signature line that read, "Authorized by C. Rivers," I smiled. They'd made me invisible, but my digital fingerprints were everywhere. Break time equals 2 As I organized the files, I stumbled across an email thread from 3 months ago. Evan had written to Mom. Camila's not married, no kids, no life. She's too soft for the real world. My chest tightened, but this time I didn't break. I copied the email into my plan, labeling it Emotional Exhibit A. By midnight, my desk was covered with printouts, sticky notes, and a single family photo, one I hadn't looked at in years. In it, I was standing slightly off to the side, half cut from the frame. That was my role, wasn't it? Always half included. But no. I was rewriting my place. The plan wasn't about vengeance. It was about accountability. If they wanted to pretend I didn't belong, then they could finally live like it, without my structure, without my quiet work behind the scenes. I set automatic notifications for every account withdrawal attempt. I changed every login. And I left one final note in the banking system memo field. Access suspended until proper acknowledgement of ownership and respect. It wasn't legal jargon. It was a mirror. Break time equals 2/. The next day Sienna stopped by my desk at work. "You look lighter," she said. I smiled. I finally stopped apologizing for existing. But peace is fragile in families built on ego. That evening I received a new message, this time from Evan himself. "Nice stunt, Cam. You always needed to feel important. Guess what? You just made yourself the problem." I stared at the screen, my heartbeat steady, and I typed back one sentence. "Then let's solve it, together at dinner." Because for the first time I wasn't avoiding the table. I was calling the meeting. I chose the restaurant carefully, the same one where they humiliated me. Same table, same seats, same golden light above the wine glasses. Only this time I wasn't the extra chair. I arrived first, calm and early. The waiter smiled politely as I requested the quiet corner. My reflection in the window didn't tremble anymore. It held steady like the calm before rain. When my family entered, they carried the same air of superiority, as if I'd been summoned instead of inviting them. Mom forced a smile. "So, what's this about, honey?" Evan smirked. "Gonna apologize for the banking stunt?" Dad stayed silent, arms folded, watching. I looked at each of them, their faces the same ones that once defined my worth. Then I slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed statements, account histories, and photos from every holiday I'd paid for but was never thanked for. "Do you see these?" I said softly. "Every transaction, every signed line, all handled by me. Every late fee avoided, every bill paid on time. You called me not family, but somehow your lives ran through my fingertips. Break time equals 2/. Evan rolled his eyes. "So what, you want a medal?" I smiled faintly. "No. I want acknowledgement. I want you to stop pretending I don't exist." Mom shifted uncomfortably. "Camila, this isn't how families work." I met her gaze. "You're right. Families shouldn't humiliate one of their own for fun either." Dad finally spoke. His voice was low. "Enough. Let's not turn this into a scene." I leaned forward. The scene already happened. I just stopped pretending it didn't. For a moment no one spoke. The air between us felt like static. Then I pushed a paper toward my father, a single-page statement of financial transfer. It read, "Authorization to remove Camila Rivers from all shared responsibilities and linked accounts." He frowned. "What's this?" "Pie freedom," I said. "You want control? Take it. But from this moment you handle it all yourself." Evan scoffed. "You can't just walk away." I smiled. "Watch me. Break time equals 2/. I stood up, smoothed my jacket, and left enough cash to cover my meal. Only my meal. As I walked out, I heard Mom whisper, "What have we done?" Outside, the night air was crisp. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, "They'll learn soon enough what absence feels like." As I had one more step in my plan. And it didn't involve revenge. It involved revelation. 2 days after that dinner, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. It was from the family's accountant, Mr. Langford, the quiet man who'd handled their finances for years. "Miss Rivers," he said gently, "your father asked me to review some discrepancies in the joint accounts. But when I logged in, I saw something interesting." I smiled softly. "Let me guess. My name on every authorization?" He chuckled nervously. "More than that. Your digital signature gives you partial co-ownership. That means legally, every family fund withdrawal for the last 7 years required your approval." My heart stilled. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about validation, written in code, confirmed in law. He continued, "Your father tried to override it, but the bank flagged it as unauthorized. They'll need your consent to reactivate access." Break time equals 2 forward slash. I thanked him calmly, hung up and sat there for a long while, watching the sunlight flicker across the walls of my small apartment. All those years of being laughed at, minimized, ignored, had built this quiet moment of poetic symmetry. They called me not family, but I was the foundation beneath every comfort they owned. That evening I received a message in the old family group chat, the same one I'd muted. Dad, Camila, we need to talk. Please. Evan, just fix this. We're sorry, okay? Mom, come for dinner. Let's reset. I stared at the screen for a long time, fingers hovering. Then I typed. I'll come. But this time you'll listen. At dinner the atmosphere was different. No laughter, no mocking. Just the uneasy weight of realization. Dad cleared his throat. We didn't know about the account setup. I nodded. That's because you never cared to ask. Evan looked down. So what now? I leaned back, my voice steady. Now nothing. You'll manage on your own, like I did all these years. Mom's eyes softened. Camila, we never meant to hurt you. I smiled gently. Then maybe this is how we learn what meaning feels like. Break time equals 2 forward slash. As I stood to leave, Dad's voice cracked. Camila, wait. But I just turned and said, you taught me family was earned. I finally agree. When I reached home I took one final action. I closed the shared account permanently. And for the first time in my life, I felt rich in peace. It was 2 nights later. Rain whispered against my window, soft and steady, like the world finally exhaling. I was reading by candlelight when it happened. 3 slow knocks on my door. I froze. Not out of fear but recognition. When I opened it, my father stood there, drenched from the storm. His tie was gone, his shirt clung to his frame, and his eyes, those stern, unshakable eyes, looked tired. Human. Camila, he said quietly. You were right. For a second the room fell silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. I didn't come for money, he continued. I came to apologize. You did everything for us and we made you feel like nothing. His words trembled. It wasn't grand but it was real. Behind him I saw headlights. Mom and Evan in the car waiting, too proud to step out. But Dad stayed. That alone meant something. I stepped aside. Come in. He hesitated, then entered. The air smelled of rain and memory. He sat down slowly, rubbing his hands together. I never realized how much we relied on you until everything stopped working, he said softly. It wasn't the accounts, it was us. I handed him a towel and smiled gently. Sometimes things need to break before people see what held them together. Break time equals 2 forward slash. We didn't talk about numbers or banks or blame. We talked about childhood memories, old board games, burnt dinners, my first failed piano recital. Somewhere in that quiet, something healed, not everything but enough. When he left, he paused at the doorway. You really are family, Camila, he said, voice trembling. I smiled. I always was. The door closed behind him. The storm outside began to fade. I walked to my desk, opened the family reunion plan document one last time, and typed the final line. Lesson complete. Reunion achieved, just not the way they planned. Then I hit delete. Because peace doesn't need evidence. Break time equals 2 forward slash. If you're still watching this, tell me, have you ever had to teach your family your worth? Drop your story below, and don't forget to subscribe. Because sometimes the quietest revenge is finally being at peace. Freedom speaks louder than revenge.